Okay, we're back. We're live. It's actually 3 o'clock on a given Monday. What a weekend. What a Monday. That's the way it goes. But we have fun here. We have fun with our special guests. We have Stephanie Wu, who is with the Hui Le law firm in Shanghai.
Yes,
I say it right?
exactly, yes.
Okay. She's an exchange lawyer with the, Shanghai, Hawaii legal exchange program that Mark Shklov, who is sitting to her left, has organized. She's the latest in 8 or 9 such lawyers who have come here in this program.
Right, and they've all been great, terrific.
They have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stephanie is the latest one, and she's about to go back.
Some say she's the greatest one.
The latest and the greatest.
Okay, there
and
you
she's
go.
about to go back to Shanghai tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Flying
so
tomorrow.
she originally came and did a program with us, and which you did a very good job of moderating. And now we're back to do a kind of farewell.
Okay.
Adieu.
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 Until the next time we see each other.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out the name of that song from Sound of Music, and Mark and I couldn't remember, but Stephanie did. Yeah. Farewell.
That's one of the early American influences in China.
Guess
A
so.
classic, all-time classic.
It's nice to know.
Is
we have
that true?
influence.
Really?
Is it? It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was for us too. It was a really big hit, that song in the 70s. They had a theater on Trujillo Avenue, right in Waikiki there, and people were lined up around the block weeks and weeks and weeks to see Sound of Music. It was one of those things where everybody had to see it right now. Same thing in China, I'm sure.
Yes, it is. Except that you actually got more audience because of the population.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's true. Whatever we do here, it's a scintilla. Then you think things in China. I mean, anything you can name. A restaurant, huge, a block long.
Yes.
And I remember from my first experience in a foot massage place. Mark, have you ever been in a foot massage place?
No, but I would like to go now that you've mentioned it.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
In Beijing or in China, you mean?
Anywhere.
Oh.
And you go into a foot massage place and you think it's a little tiny little foot massage place. No, there's hundreds of people involved. It's serious.
In China?
Yeah. Well, not here. They don't have them here.
No, but in China?
Yes.
That's what you're talking
Everything
about.
is big.
Yeah.
It's like Texas. Everything is big.
Right.
Oh, we're so sad. That's why we're going to sing this song later if we can remember the words about farewell. So we're calling this show Adieu to our Stephanie Wu.
But thank you. This is not going away. I'll be back, I'm sure.
Okay,
And in the same way, I hope that you are going to be in Shanghai, in China, as well, and be my guest. And,
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been special, and I really enjoyed our time, my wife and I, and Mark, and all the crowd, come around, and been fabulous.
Well, what we do is we have a kind of a core group of people, and every time we've had a Chinese lawyer that's come to stay with us for a few months, that group kind of functions as a family, and we all just get to know each other real well, and it not only do we get to know the visiting lawyer in our program, but the Hawaii folks that we get to know, like you and your wife and all of our people that collaborate on this program, we get to be pretty close too. So it's a really good program in many aspects.
Yeah, you thought this was all about trying to build better bridges with China. Nah, it's not that. It's getting together. It's having a dinner party or two. That's what it's about. It's a social club.
Well, that is true. A lot of it is social, which is really important, especially in China. I think, Stephanie, a lot of things that happen in China are based upon who you know, right?
Yeah, there's a word for it. It's called 关系. A lot of people know about it, and basically it refers to the network that you are in, the social setting, the people, the reach of people that you can get to. So it's essential in China. I suppose the same in anywhere else in the world. And in Hawaii, I feel it even stronger because everyone I meet, I encounter, whether in a professional setting or just on a day-to-day basis, they are so warm.
Yeah, try that in Manhattan.
It's very not going there.
It's not the same.
Okay.
Well, good. We wanted your experience to be good, and that's why we prepared about 20 questions to ask you about how your experience has been. So if you don't mind, the first thing you do is, will the reporter please come in, and would you raise your right hand and be sworn under oath? I'm only kidding. Joke. Stephanie is not only a lawyer, she's a litigator too. You're going back for a case.
Yeah, more than one, actually, yeah. Because there are some work to be taken care of.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm sure that happens to a lot of people, but we will miss you special. So anyway, what I'm going to go through these questions now that someone at this table, not me and not you, has prepared.
Feel free to vary and use your imagination.
Okay. So the idea is to sort of, we wanted to do is get a before and after. And we have the before, although we didn't catch you immediately after you came, it was pretty soon after you came. And sort of get a snapshot of how you felt at the time, and we have that. And now we're getting your exit interview. Your temporary exit interview.
That's right.
So some interesting thoughts. What surprised you in this trip? I mean, it's been a surprise to me that this is your first trip to the U.S. because you speak such great English. But I guess that's because you were schooled in it in China, and because you spent a year in U.K. and that can teach you how to speak English.
Well, while we're on that, Stephanie, how did you tell us a little bit how you learned to speak English so well? I mean, and maybe we're being a little bit provincial in all this, Jay, but
Okay.
People would like to know.
Okay.
So.
Okay, right. So am I supposed to tell the truth?
If you can.
Right.
Just tell us
okay,
when you're
yeah,
not.
Sure. Let's say I'm on the oath. No, I'm kidding. Because why I'm saying that is because some things that you do in one culture may be, perceived as not proper or not legal at the time, while it's pretty much okay in another cultural setting. So of course, in China, I was born in Shanghai. So Shanghai is one of the places that has always attached a great importance to English teaching. So at my generation, I started learning English at grade 4. And I have to say that the most part of my English did not come from school. It came from my various readings and listening to news from the U.S.
Sound of music.
Yes, that's right. One of them must be. It's all kinds of those impacts on you that build up altogether. I used to have CNN news, just put on the background during whatever I was doing from junior high school years, and I have kept my interest in the English-speaking world basically from that time on. So I suppose it's true with every profession or anything you do. If you have a real interest, then you probably would do it better. So that part for me, that's not difficult, and I acquired that language ability quite easily and happily, in a way that I enjoy.
But that's really interesting because you went beyond where school would have taken you, and you made a personal mission out of it, and I guess it shows that if you decide to learn something, even if it's not so easy, you can learn it.
Yeah, I suppose you need to always find the proper way to do it. Yeah.
So excuse me for getting off the questions, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about.
I just wonder. I mean, what the lesson for you in that may be relevant for us, because I mean, I'm good for hello, goodbye, and could you show me the way to the bathroom in Chinese.
Right.
But what do I need to do to really get fluent?
Oh, I suppose you need to imagine yourself grow up in that environment as if you are learning a language of your mother tongue. Just imagine how you learn English. So that's how
Is
I
it too late?
learn
It's too
English as
late.
a second
You're telling me
language.
it's too late.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that.
Never too late. So I'm asking this on your behalf as well, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, well, I've tried every language from Latin to Spanish to Chinese to Japanese, and the only one I could really learn was English, and I'm still practicing on that. So,
Okay.
so
what
what
has
has surprised you?
About your first trip? First trip. I got to get used to that. Your first trip to the U.S.
I wouldn't say it's any sort of a surprise because it's somewhat what I have always had in mind, a society and a world to be like that. Referring back to what I just said, I used to listen to news and or movies or books about the English-speaking world, but I am most impressed by the people I'm meeting here. I'm not saying this because
What did you expect and what did you get?
No, I heard that the people here were warm from the previous visiting Chinese attorneys. But I mean, I didn't quite expect to be that the person-to-person connections can be to that degree. And only if you come down here and you talk to people and get to know people, then you feel that, I mean, there's a real connection over there. And I think the most important thing is the people itself. So
Yeah, it's all about relationships. It's all about that guanxi. I mean,
impressed me most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a show with some 3 scientists in the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology last hour, and we were talking about acidification of the oceans. And I told them it wasn't really about acidification. It wasn't about carbon dioxide. It wasn't about killing the reefs. It was about relationships. And they agreed with me. Everything is about relationships. They agreed with me. Okay, what have you liked best about your experience in Hawaii?
Oh, well, the people, of course. That's very important because you encounter people every on a day-to-day basis. And I have to say the air is great. For sure I'm going to be missing that. And the food is good.
What kind of food do you like?
Oh, I'm pretty open with food, but not open as much as the other Chinese would be, I'm particularly into Japanese food.
We got
yeah,
plenty
so
of that,
there are
yeah.
plenty of that over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Raw fish and all this, no problem. They have that in the Chinese menu?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
In China,
Yeah.
there are quite a lot of Japanese restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I ask one follow-up kind of question on that?
Follow-up question.
And that is, how about the air? You know, the air. What is China going to do about the air quality? Because we hear about this a lot in the news.
That's right.
The problems in Beijing, especially, Shanghai, also, but not as bad as Beijing. So what is China doing about that? I mean, because you just told us something that you're going to miss the air.
Yeah, I think that's something that requires a long-term effort to make things happen and to improve really the air. I think the government is taking actions. It has actually issued a new environmental protection law, and it has made actually improvement in the environment as one of the criteria to evaluate the performance of officials, government officials. And it has limited the number of cars on the street. In Beijing, for example, I heard the car emission standard is the highest. They use maybe the highest that is currently used in Europe. Yeah, certainly highest in the country,
Yeah.
but I think they're also taking the highest in Europe by Europe standard. And I don't know. Air is such a big issue that concerns everyone. So there's no way to get around that.
Well, that's the thing, and we'll see more of that in the world. We'll see whether the environment gets so bad that you really have to do it as a matter of, society, the survival of the society. But what's interesting is in China, they have the ability to do it. There's not going to be any internecine fight in the Politburo about this. The president is not going to argue with the Congress. They'll just do it. They'll do it faster. I mean, that's what I've heard. I mean, there's serious pollution problems, of course. And, they're generating an enormous amount of carbon with the coal and the cars. But they're also taking steps. So you got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, one of the ways is to actually encourage technology innovation, clean energy, and other technologies. If those are not available in China, then we will acquire them by way of technology transfer from other countries.
Well, it was only a few years ago when China started making PV, photovoltaic panels. It was maybe 5 years ago. Really wasn't a long time. And now they're number one in the world. And they're making a lot for their own use. They're making a lot for our use, too. Anyway, okay. Some of these are very generic, and I'm not taking responsibility for them.
Well, please feel free to, change them in any way you see fit.
Let's take a break. A short break. Have to regroup so we can change all the questions.
All right.
That's Stephanie Wu. Stephanie is a lawyer embedded with Kate Schutte here in Honolulu. She's part of the Shanghai, Hawaii Lawyer Exchange Program, which was organized originally by attorney Mark Shklov, who's sitting to her left here. This is ThinkTech Asia today. We're talking about Adieu to our Stephanie Wu. That's our show. We'll be right back.
Aloha, my name is Willow Chang Alion, and I host a show called The Art of Life. We air live every Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. And what we do is basically we focus on individuals who create a unique sense of place for Hawaii. These are movers and shakers, artists, innovators. They are also traditionalists. They're all involved in the archival process, and they make this place a unique place, one that makes Hawaii a richer place to be. I hope you do join us, and certainly tell your friends about the show, whether they live here or they live abroad. It's a way to give back to our community. We're keeping it pono.
Okay, we're back, we're live, we're here on ThinkTech Asia, saying adieu to our Stephanie Wu, who is a Shanghai lawyer here in the Lawyer Exchange Program, with Mark Shklov, her mentor, or I guess mentor.
One of several.
One of her mentors, which is nice.
Certainly.
So what kinds of things have you been doing here? Have you got to break that down to what kinds of things have you been doing professionally? And what kinds of things have you been doing, to learn the community? And what kinds of things have you been doing socially, if you care to talk about it?
Culturally.
Culturally. So break it down for us.
Right. Well, professionally, I was able to actually write answers to motions.
Motions
At least
pending in what courts?
participate in that. Sorry?
The American courts?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To prepare and draft something, I'm not sure whether, finally they used it, but at least I get to participate in that process and do my own legal research. Yeah, on a real case.
That's in the American legal research system.
Yes, on a real American case, which is
a real American case, and you wrote in English, of course.
I did write that out. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I just want to add a footnote. See, we're doing all this interruption here today. Here, I'm interrupting myself. Stephanie's firm, the Huiye law firm in Shanghai, actually has offices elsewhere outside of China. And one of the offices they have, this is the part that sticks in my brain, is in Atlanta, Georgia. So it's not like this is, very unusual for a Chinese lawyer to come and deal in the American process. I mean, they have an office in Atlanta, Georgia. We got to get them to have an office here in Honolulu.
That's what we'd like.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so all right, interrupted.
Right. Yeah. So, and then, of course, Mark has been devoting a lot of time and taking me to all kinds of court experiences. I was in the circuit court and district court, and I was also at the state Supreme Court for the swearing of Judge Michael.
Mike Wilson.
That's
Mike
great.
Wilson,
Oh,
yeah.
that's great. After all the trouble, that's great. It's a historical
Yes, I
moment.
also
you know.
learned some of the troubles. Yeah. And I was also taken by an attorney at Kate's, Ted Young, to the bankruptcy court. Yeah. So, Mark's been taking me to the court whereby I was able to participate in TRO hearings, and TRO, and that's a temporary restraining order.
TRO.
That's right. And also DUI cases, driving under influence. And there was also one
Participate,
criminal
did you
defense
say?
case, right?
Right.
Participate?
Yeah.
Just observe, yes.
Observe.
Observe.
That's
And we
right, yeah.
talked to the lawyers afterwards.
Yeah.
The lawyers here in Hawaii were really nice. I mean, they all talked, and when they learned that Stephanie was from China, tried to explain,
Yeah.
what the cases were about, and were really helpful.
That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what were your impressions of these courtroom situations? I mean, how does it differ in a gestalt way? How does it differ from, courtroom life in China?
It's quite different if you think about that, in the way that the judge, the level and the fashion that judge participates in it, and the way that the judge treads it. I suppose it has to do with the cultural background, different ways of communication, and we don't have any TROs in China, and by Mark's taking me to the various courts and the various things I was involved, there are several issues that I found that that's a common practice in the U.S., but that they do not exist, at least for now, in China. So, for example, the TROs and also disclosure. So that's quite interesting to be able to see something else.
Yeah. Well, do you think disclosure, you mean, when you say disclosure, you mean interrogatories, discovery?
Sorry, discovery, yes,
Yeah,
I always
yeah,
confuse with those words.
They don't have that in
discovery.
China?
No.
So that's the question I would put to you. Do you think, this is an interesting experience because you can make a comparison and you can also make a judgment. And you can say, gee, this whole thing about discovery sounds like a good idea, so there aren't a lot of surprises. Maybe it's better. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it leads me to maybe perhaps in the future I'll do some reading about why it is not implemented in China. Probably there are certain difficulties, and as you know, China's legal system is very young, and in building it, we took a lot of experience from Europe, from US and UK, and transplant them in China, but with local adaptations. So some of them are reserved, and some are not taken to China. So it will be interesting to find out why.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you're in a place, you're in a generation, which is going to be asking those questions, and maybe there'll be a kind of a consolidation of all those lessons, where you integrate what you learned from hither and yon, and then you make it yours and you make it really good.
Hopefully, yes.
Okay.
It's worth trying.
So what else? We missed on something. This is your things you have done.
What
Cultural
sort of
things.
cultural things. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah. Well, a lot actually. Well, I'll just go backwards. The most recent ones I've been going to was the Lantern Floating Festival, Memorial Day. Yes, May 26th. That was a very nice experience.
Have that in China, though.
I'm not sure. This is my first time to ever participate in such
Where did I see
event?
that? In Beijing. There's a lake in Beijing.
Okay.
and they have lanterns floating in the lake.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure it's to memorialize the dead or anything, but it's really beautiful. And everybody has rowboats.
Yeah, it is. I think it has got a connection to Buddhism.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, so does what happens at Ala Moana.
No, that's what she's talking about.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I think they both do.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination. The inspiration must come from Buddhism to remember the passed away relatives and whoever you respect in
It's
such
good,
a way.
good that you got to see that, because that is quite a...
So what else?
Yeah.
What else?
Yes, let me just think. It's a long
He
memory
wants you to
chain.
talk about something, but we can't figure out what it is he wants you to talk about.
Hula or anything like
Oh,
that?
that's right.
Oh.
That's the lady celebration. Mark is very patient.
Okay.
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah, that's on May the 1st.
Yeah. Are you trying to tell us that you learned how to dance the hula?
No, so far I've been observing, just like in the courts.
Maybe
Yeah.
next time she'll come back and learn how to
it's
do the hula.
a small achievement compared to learning English when you were 4.
Yeah, that's right. It was a wonderful event. You know, you feel that everyone can be so happy. And the hula dances, they represent a spirit to me. You know, to get, if you're getting old, that's fine, but you can still enjoy life. You know, that's a wonderful experience. And what else, Mark?
No, that's enough. That's enough.
We
Those two
spoke
things
about
are
the
pretty
theater.
good.
We spoke about the theater experiences in our last talk. So
Yeah.
right?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Just saw Donna again.
Leading
so,
questions are permitted here, by the way. Okay, now we're getting into the relationship of the two countries a little bit. So what is a major misunderstanding that the Chinese have about the Americans?
Oh, not me, the Chinese. Misunderstanding. Oh, geez. Not sure where to start.
There's so many.
It could be. It could be.
Are there,
I don't
are there
know.
many? I mean,
It also depends on how you define misunderstanding, or maybe it's not
misconception.
Misconception.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
better.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
a better term.
Okay. Geez. Well, the Chinese actually like Americans a lot.
Okay, so maybe there's none.
No.
Well, if they like them, they probably study them, and they, look at the culture and the music and all that. So then they know a lot about how life is in the U.S. already.
Yeah. Well, sometimes people would, if they like something, they would say, well, 100% of that is perfect. Or if they dislike something, then they will say everything is so, nasty. But in that sense, that's a misconception.
It's not perfect. They think it's perfect,
people
and it's
like
not perfect.
the way the U.S. society is run.
They do like it,
Yeah.
and so much so that they ignore the problems.
That
don't.
problems make those even more apparent enough to notice the differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going off the script here, but have you found things in your travels here that surprised you that way, where you thought, a given phenomenon was just really fine, but it wasn't?
No, I noticed there are quite many homeless people on the street of Hawaii. So, although in Shanghai I haven't been able to spot as many, but of course I've been asking people that I met, and they told me about the same stories. That's part of the difference that you see, because it does not quite exist in China. But China does have its own problems. We have beggars on the street, which are not really beggars, but so that's the difference. One of the differences that I see.
Not really beggars. What does that mean?
It can be
It's a
they could
business.
use
It's a business.
that costume to some of them could rely on it as a business, and some of them could approach you and
they're really criminals.
Well, they try to, yes, take advantage of you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. How about a major? I'm not sure major, but how about a misconception that Americans have about Chinese? Have you become aware of anything in your travel in this trip that fits in that category, where people really don't know, Americans don't know about something that's happening in China?
Yeah, obviously sometimes people tend to focus on the problems, but I think when you look at China, you should look at the long way it has come through. I mean, my generation, I really have seen the steep growth in the past over 30 years' time.
Yeah.
So it is amazing. I mean, it's important that you identify the problems and with the hope to make improvements. But you need to actually look from the whole dimension of the growth of China, and really, I mean, do not take a simplistic approach when you assess anything in China, because I believe the people in China and the government, they are trying to make things better, but things just do not take place, overnight.
They don't take place overnight here either. You know?
It takes a lot of, I suppose, wisdom and vision, and
keep on working.
Yeah.
But something you said really opens a question to me that I think is really a question I've been meaning to ask you anyway, and that is, so you were born and raised in a time when China had not hit its stride. You were born and raised in a time was fresh off the what do you call it, Cultural Revolution. Maybe you were even born in the Cultural Revolution.
I was lucky enough. I was born on the year that it ended.
Good year to be born.
Right after that, yeah.
Yeah. But so you start there, and you have a certain vision of the world in China, and then you notice that it's getting better and better and better. Every year, fantastic growth, unbelievable growth, and after a while you begin to understand that this growth is only in China. It's not necessarily to the same extent in the countries around China. It's not in the U.S. and it's not in Europe. It's China. I mean, how does that make you feel? I mean, how did your whole life has been watching that happen. You must have a particular view of it. You must be proud, for example. You must be way, way proud.
Yes, I am. I'm feeling lucky. I'm feeling proud of what the people in China was able to, achieve in the past. Also, there are a lot of challenges ahead of us. Environment, for example, and I think in a globalized world, the good thing is you can always look to other countries for their, better experiences and sort of, if not copy, but to learn it. For example, I think we can learn the better things in the U.S. education system, which I was able to, have a taste of that by going to Punahou and speak to their senior high school students about current issues in China. So
you gave a talk there?
Yeah, I gave a talk to 4 classes. That was a wonderful experience, and because I have a son, so I also think for him, what would be a better way to educate and to really grow academically, so that he can fit into the society, sort of seamlessly. And at Punahou, they impressed me by their way of teaching, whereby you are quite independent but still supported, but you're on your own to to actually identify a problem. You do your own research, and you actually ask yourself what the challenges are, what problems are, and then how to solve them to make things better. So, for example, this is something that Chinese schools can actually learn from the U.S. education system.
Have you talked to your son about your experience at Punahou?
Actually, I'm going back. I'm going to speak to him in person, but I do write very simple blogs or in the Chinese way about it, and a lot of people, especially those who are parents, who would actually agree and who would actually aspire for that type of
well, I mean, this is something
method.
where he would say, Mother, I really appreciate you telling me about Punahou. I think from what you say, it's a very good school. Things don't work quite that way in China. I would like to be educated in Punahou. I'd like you to send me there. Make it happen, Mom.
That's why I'm going back. Start working.
Well, one thing she mentioned too is she's been doing blogs of her experiences here, which she sent back to her friends. Is that right?
Yes, it's like a community, online community. It's called WeChat, which is really popular in China.
It's a blogging site.
It's not really a blog. It's everything. You can share your every bit of your daily moment with friends and photos.
Good.
Yeah, so it's like real time sharing.
Okay, well, speaking of real time, we're going to take a break. Real time. I'm Jay Fidell. This is ThinkTech Asia. I'm having a lovely day with Stephanie Wu, and we're talking about Adieu to our Stephanie Wu.
You have
Mark
no
Shklov.
excuse for that.
You'll get over it. We'll be right back after the short break.
Hello, I'm Martin Despang, and I'm the host together with the one and only Ali Amashta, and our show is called Urban Transcendence. And Urban Transcendence is about identifying where we have a unique situation of a vibrant city in one of the most beautiful natural environments. So how these two can coincide, sometimes conflict, how they could find reciprocity in the 21st century is what we're excited about. And we're planning on bringing in a diverse body of guests, both from the arts and the science and the established and the wise and the emerging generation. So hope you will join us. We'll always be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m.
Okay, we're back. We're live. We're here on ThinkTech Talks, ThinkTech Asia, saying adieu to our Stephanie Wu. Wu. She will, in time, learn to forgive me for that title.
It'll take a long time.
Stephanie Wu is a member of the Huiye
Yeah, 会业.
a law firm in Shanghai, and she's been here for, what, a couple, 3 months?
Two
More like
months.
2
A
months.
little more than 2 months.
As
yes.
part of the exchange program, and now she's going back, and we are sad to see her go. But we know we will see her again. There is no question about it.
No.
And Mark Shklov is one of the organizers of that program back in, I want to say, 2008?
2006 is what we
Six,
think.
far
something like
on,
that,
yeah. And it's worked out very well on so many levels, including the level of bringing the American contingent together in order to, enjoy the Chinese visitors. So what opportunities do you see from a business point of view, from your practice in Shanghai, which is a sophisticated practice? It involves mergers and acquisitions, which is all about building the economy. And what you see in Hawaii. I mean, how can we collaborate as two economic societies?
Right. I see that there are several highlights that will be particularly interesting to the Chinese. One of them will be real estate, which is not a surprise. Commercial housing or residential housing. And I heard that some business people from China purchased a few years ago golf courses in Hawaii. And once they decide to spend, the volume is going to be pretty big, I suppose. So that kind of transactions needs lawyers both in China and in the U.S. to assist them with, right? Also, since China is actually giving a lot of incentives and importance to environmental protection, water pollution, or alternative energy, Hawaii may have something to offer in that regard.
Well, I'm telling you before that we every Monday we have a contingent of scientists who come here from the School of Ocean, Earth Science and Technology at UH, and it's a famous school. I mean, the place is very high in the world of ocean and earth science, and they would love to come to China to compare notes about how things work here in this part of the Pacific and how things work there and what they can learn from the variation. It would be really something. Let me go back for a minute, though, to the real estate thing. You know, if you were staying a little longer, I would take you to the showroom at the IBM building, which has been redesigned in Kaka'ako. I just went to see it on Saturday, and there are some spectacular units there, units that nobody in this island can afford.
It's a new project.
It's a showroom as it has a sort of a gestalt version of how these apartments will be, but it doesn't follow the exact floor plan. It just shows you how it's going to set up and tries to give you the impression, the idea of how it is. And they're really fabulous apartments. I'm speaking specifically of the Howard Hughes Corporation, which is actually breaking ground on one of these important, flagship buildings for them this weekend. But they had one unit there which might interest you, Stephanie. It was 50 million American, and they weren't sure if it was going to stay at that low price. It might be going up.
So can we get Chinese investors to come to Hawaii to buy that type of building? What do you think, Stephanie? I mean, to buy that type of a unit. That's just an apartment unit,
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's an apartment with a swimming pool.
Yeah.
It's an apartment that's, the whole footprint of the building and 2 stories high. It's not a small
So
apartment.
it's a substantial unit, okay? Are we going to get, do you think we're going to get that type of investment from China?
First of all, I mean, are they interested in having Chinese investors come in and buy properties? Are they not going to be worried a bit, like in some other places? For example, I know in London that a lot of Chinese are buying up London, and that the local British, that drove up the market price and made the local British sort of unhappy.
Inflates the market
Yes,
so that the local people can't
afford to buy it.
We had that happen, didn't we, Jay?
We did. We had that exact experience back 30 years ago. Yeah.
Right.
And
Okay.
it took a toll on our economy and our social structure, I think.
So that's a question. That's a very good question. And there's 2 sides to it, I think. First of all, I don't think the developers care where they get the money. I could be wrong on that.
No, you're right.
But second, local people may get a little worried.
Well, I think interesting that we had in this conversation, and thinking about this a lot, the concern that local people would have is not so much that it's one country with a lot of investors investing a lot of money. It's something different. It's that they will be absentee. They won't stay there. They won't live there. They won't participate in anything around that neighborhood. And so I guess the question is, to refine Mark's question, is if the Chinese buy, say, this unit or other expensive units, or any unit, would they come and live here, or would it just be a retreat?
Oh, it could probably be a retreat, I would say. I think in most Chinese perception, they would think Hawaii to be a paradise for living for retreat, but not so much as business development. But it obviously depends on which sector. But in general, so that's what the Chinese would perceive Hawaii to be. But then I think that's something Hawaii also needs to work on, together with its connections and friends in China, for example, to actually promote Hawaii and to actually let people know that Hawaii is so much not just that.
Yeah, and to actually try to have some effect on the people who make the investment, to have them make the investment with the idea that they will participate in the community, that they will engage, and not just make an absentee retreat out of it. I mean, if you have the fragile society of any island is fragile. And if you have a lot of people come and be absentee landlords, that's a price you have to pay. But if they understand that and they come with the idea that no, they'll go to the movies, they'll go to the restaurants, they'll join the clubs, they'll learn how to play hula, how to dance hula,
Or they'll set up a company to
That's right.
do some environmental work.
That too. Yes.
Or they'll set up a bank, maybe.
Yes.
Or something that will be a business here.
Yeah.
That will mean they will live here and do business. But I think what Stephanie said is a good insight into some perceptions.
Yes.
And we have to think about where in Hawaii where we want to go and what we want.
Yes, we do, right now. This is the issue of the day.
Yeah.
That was what we talked about at the program 2 weeks ago in Kaka'ako. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we only have a couple of minutes left, and I actually think that we're going to have to hold these questions until
Next time.
Next time when Stephanie comes back. I'm going to put in my special file.
Okay.
But what I'd like to do is, sort of ask you for your remarks to Hawaii, not just any one person, but to Hawaii. What should we do to be a better place in your eyes, in the eyes of Chinese people you know?
Oh, right.
What's your advice to us?
I think Hawaii has a lot to offer, and it's a society that functions very well. It's a happy place for people to be living in and working in. I, for example, would be happy to see my son to be educated here, and given that, and I'm thinking the other parents will probably share the same perception if they are exposed properly to the educational resources over here. And it goes the same also to other sectors. I think Hawaii just needs to market itself better to a great extent.
In what way? Market, what characteristics?
Oh, for example, it has real estate to offer, it has good air to offer, good living environment, and maybe education can be one highlights, and astronomical activities.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we did go to see, I don't know if you know, Mark, but my wife and I took Stephanie to see Alex Filipenko, who is a world-class astrophysicist from Berkeley, and it was a really interesting experience. Yeah, National Academy of Science and so forth.
Yeah.
He was out here about 3 weeks ago, and he gave a speech. It was called The Big Bang Theory, Inflation, and that's not monetary inflation; it's universal inflation, and the multiverse, which is that is really more than one universe, and we're only part of a number of universes. And it was a pretty interesting speech.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I think it coincides with the ending of a motion movie, The Man in Black.
Yes, what about that?
I didn't see it myself, but as I told you, I wrote this short blog, so one of my colleagues said, hey, what you said about that Filipenko talk is the idea of the multiverse. It coincides with the ending of a movie called The Man in Black.
Yes.
You saw that movie?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Well, sure.
Stephanie has
So-
not seen enough movies.
No.
No,
I've
That's
tried
right.
to get her to watch movies.
I'm not a good
movies,
student. I haven't
and
finished.
she's watched several that I gave her, American lawyer movies. But we want to get her to watch more. She works a little too hard.
Did you ever connect with Alison Connor at the law school with her very interesting movies out of China in the 20s and 30s?
Right.
You should do that next trip. And there will be a next trip because I feel, and I want to add this, is that we've had 8 or 9, but I've never felt so comfortable actually as with you. And I think that's partly because you really feel comfortable with Hawaii. You're very in tune with Hawaii. Maybe it's the language, but I think it's more. So thanks for a good time, Stephanie.
Thank you, Jay. It's wonderful to be here.
Thank you, Mark. You made this possible.
Oh, well, we've all done it. We've had a good group, and we all work together.
Okay, I'm going to get teary-eyed in a minute.
Better not.
Have a good trip back. Saijian.
Thank you.
And all that.
Adieu, and until next time.
Adieu. Adieu.
I hope to see you in China, Jay.
And the same. That's Stephanie Wu, and we've been saying adieu to Stephanie Wu here on ThinkTech Asia. A good trip back, and I hope to see you again
Aloha.
soon. Aloha.
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 Aloha. Pume mehana me. What is it? I can't do it right. Pume
Pumehana.
pumehana. It means I really mean it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.